We all ponder the future, be it our personal future or the future of our species. We live in a time unlike any other in human history, a time of abundance and seemingly limitless technological growth. This explosion of growth seems inevitable that it will continue on, improving ever more, possibly infinitely so. That said, predicting the future has historically been a fool's game. Predictions of the future have often been wildly off in their speculation, usually placing too much emphasis on a certain technology and its most likely path at the time of prediction. Today I will be doing exactly that, so strap in for my future predictions about humanity's expansion into the stars. Today, in 2023, human presence in space is lacking. Yes, we have thousands of satellites, a couple large space stations and telescopes, and ambitious plans to go further. But all in all, actual humans in space is still a rarity. In fact, collectively, humans have only spent 2 weeks on the moon in total. All that seems about to change, however, with the Artemis Accords and the race for the moon against China. The world has entered a new space race, there's no doubt about that. And this time, it's about establishing a permanent presence on the moon and setting up a lunar economy. From here, it seems likely cislunar infrastructure will build up and more people will continue to live or work off Earth, paving the way for human expansion to Mars. Once on Mars, humanity plans to set up a self-sustaining colony from which to push further out into the solar system, out beyond the belt and out into the gas giants and their moons. While humanity expands outward, it is also reasonable to assume we will move inwards as well, towards Venus and Mercury. Given our current trajectory, humanity appears poised to settle the solar system in a relatively short period of time. All this is fun and good, and I sincerely hope and believe this will happen, but there are of course some major hurdles needed to be crossed. Space is a hostile place. So hostile it makes Antarctica look like a resort getaway. The lack of gravity alone is enough to cause muscles, including the heart, to atrophy after extended periods of time. The truth is, we have very little idea how the human body will react to an extended stay in partial gravity. It's entirely possible that under a certain gravitational threshold, humans simply can't sustain themselves in that environment. This would spell major bad news for our future plans. Another major hurdle is radiation and the vacuum. Without protective coverings, the vast majority of organisms on Earth will be dead within seconds of being exposed to the vacuum of space. Yet some life has found a way to survive in space. Researchers determined that pellets of dried bacteria had lived on the hull of the ISS in space for up to 3 years. Before our own eyes, we are seeing the adaptation of life to the harsh environment of space. Life can survive the void. Humans cannot. So where does that leave us? Heavily reliant on our technology is where. There seems to be an assumption that once humanity settles on Mars, that we as a species become extinct-proof. This will not be the case for a very, very long time due to the complete dependency any off-world colonies will have on technology. And these colonies are not likely to be comfortable. It seems likely that the only comfortable place to live off-world would be inside giant rotating space habitats, and I can't see those as a realistic possibility in the short term, given the huge undertakings such a structure would require. Instead, I see a more practical yet controversial approach to space colonization. Instead of poorly altering our environment to fit the humans, why not alter the humans to fit the environment? In reality, we technically already do this through our technology, via spacesuits and artificial environments, but those can only take us so far. Underground cramped tubes for 2 years would drive colonists to the brink, and giant domes surrounding our cities seem impractical, especially on a planetary scale. And this is still ignoring the 1/3 G Mars experiences. The solution? Genetic engineering. NASA has already been toying with the idea of genetically altering the DNA of its astronauts to be more radiation resistant. The plan includes using the DNA of tardigrades, an incredibly hardy and radiation resistant creature, and the technology CRISPR to bolster astronauts' ability to tolerate radiation. If this plan goes through and is successful, it could fundamentally change the way we go about space exploration. For now, CRISPR is in its infancy, but the technology improves and drops in cost by the day. New developments have those involved already looking to deploy it in the fight against climate change by altering the microbiome in the guts of cows to reduce the amount of methane they produce up to 80%. The significance of this plan is the newfound ability to scale up the technology to this level, affecting the majority of livestock cows on the planet, and cows aren't the only ones being altered. Chinese biophysicist He Jiankhu opened Pandora's box when he secretly and illegally used CRISPR to alter the genome of 2 unborn children to make them resistant to HIV. The children were born in November of 2018 and are still alive and healthy. He Jiankhu just finished his prison sentence and is returning to science. Despite anyone's opinion on this, it happened, and genetically altered humans are now a reality. As humanity reaches for the stars, we are held down by the sheer gravity of the task, pardon the pun, of living in space. We know space is essential for the long-term survival of our species, be that resources or escaping the death of our sun. That race for space is happening now, and while our technology for getting there and living there is improving, it may not be fast enough to become the accepted way of doing things. Bioengineering is a solution that would make our astronauts safer from the harmful effects of radiation, reducing the need for radiation shielding on further ships, thereby making it cheaper. We know that the cheapest and most efficient way of doing something is often the chosen route, and there are likely to be many more such examples. Bioengineering is likely to go far beyond radiation resistance, and if we come up against a problem too large for our technology to solve, and that could very well just be that less gravity proves fatal, then it would likely become our best option for settling other celestial bodies. Who would want to live in caves when you could stroll in your underwear under a Martian sun picking fruits off genetically altered Martian trees? This idea opens up the truly alien worlds presented to us in sci-fi. I imagine our earliest tests will be on and around Earth, in orbit, or the Moon. I think it's likely any lunar residents living long-term on the Moon would have modifications to withstand extreme temperatures better, increased UV light and radiation, tougher skin to withstand the sharp lunar regolith, and a host of mods affecting their bones and muscles to live in 1/6G. Anyone there would likely need protective gear, and any modifications would be in conjunction with technology. Once we get pretty good at the basics, though, we would likely start specializing in terms of which modifications were given to which people based on job, risk, and exposure to the elements. Someone working in a lunar lava tube would likely have different modifications than someone working on the surface, for example, but they would both share a host of base mods given to all of the long-term lunar residents. Specialization would lead to further discoveries, and expansion to the Red Planet would provide a whole new landscape of opportunities for discovery. Humans living off-world would probably start to look pretty weird at this point, beginning to diverge just as species separated in the wild do, except this time lightning fast, aided by genetic engineering. Our plants and animals along for the ride will likely have undergone major changes as well, being adapted to live and grow in harsher conditions, and eventually to thrive in them. Microorganisms modified to produce oxygen could be seeded to create an atmosphere on Mars. Bioengineering could actively engage in the terraforming process of a celestial body. Advancements in biotechnology for the advancement of human interest in space would more than likely find usefulness in a host of other fields back on Earth, from agriculture to medicine to climate change. A bacteria manufactured on Venus to sequester CO2 could have real benefits back on Earth. All this to say that the field of biotechnology and bioengineering is exploding right now in parallel with the heating up of the orbital age space race, and the breakthroughs made are likely to find very useful application in humanity's expansion into space. I believe genetic engineering is another link, albeit a very large link, in the chain to conquering the void. Plus, it allows for true sci-fi. An interplanetary civilization made up of hundreds of unique sentient species spread across 4 terrestrial worlds, hundreds of exomoons, the atmosphere of gas giants, asteroid fields, space habitats, and even the void. Thanks for tuning into Weird Universe. If we go this route, I hope there is a way to switch our genetic mods on and off. I personally don't want permanently razor-hard skin after my vacation to the moon. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe and check out my other videos. Let me know what topics you'd like me to cover and check back next week for more.